Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this fantastic adventure on the Asfalt ACC 2024 Championship. It's round one at Brands Hatch, and we are live for all the action here on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform, the GT3 series, which looks to be an absolute fantastic challenge today. A great little tricky circuit to get used to, and this is going to be a magnificent one to try and get used to as we go through the action. I'm Matthew Duffin, bringing you all the action tonight with my co-commentator Ashley Denman in the chat as well. Ashley, Brands Hatch, a fantastic circuit, and we look like we're going to be in for an absolute cracking race tonight.
Yeah, I can imagine we're in for a treat here at this sort of natural amphitheatre nestled in amongst the hills in Kent. So, you know, the cars on track here in front of you, they're looking pretty good. It's nice and dry out there. I think we should get some really good action. I'm really hoping for it.
Yeah, really hoping for some fantastic action out there today. 19 cars take to the circuit this afternoon in what is a decent grid of looking like very competitive drivers out there as well, and a good variety of cars. I've already seen a few of the cars in the practice session before we came on air. McLarens, Bentleys, there's a Ford Mustang, couple of BMWs, Ferraris and Lamborghinis out there as well. So should bring you some fantastic variety of cars onto the screen and onto the track tonight. But Brands Hatch, like Ashley just said, they're in Kent, just outside of Kent, the British roller coaster, as it's known as, one of the fantastic circuits that we see on the British GT and the British Touring Car Championship, and of course the Fanatec GT World Challenge Series as well. As the 15-minute qualifying is underway, and drivers really just starting to head out now for their first flying lap of the session. And actually, a very tricky circuit to get right. We're going to see in the race later on as qualifying progresses that overtaking will provide difficult in this race.
Yeah, it certainly should do. It is a technical circuit, that is for certain. But there are quite a few number of lines that you can take through some of these corners, just riding on board here with this green looking, I think it's a McLaren if I'm, oh no, sorry, Ferrari, I will get it there, as he makes his way through Surtees now. Like even, for example, this corner, there are a few different lines you can take and you can set up for a successful overtake, particularly down this straight as well, up towards Hawthorne Bend. So, you know, yeah, it can be difficult. It is quite narrow, but there are definitely opportunities there to be taken.
Opportunities to be had all day. It comes through Hawthorns and tightens up, and as you come towards Westfield's really difficult corner to get right, because you don't want to run too far wide and end up dropping a wheel in the gravel. Down Dingle Dell up towards Sheen Curve comes Salzburg now, as through Sheen he goes in towards Stirling's for the penultimate corner of this lap, and it's looked a pretty good one so far at the moment. The sector times don't look too bad out there at the moment either. Hopefully he's going to be on for a better lap. He's currently down in 18th place, yet to set a lap time, or relative lap time anyway. He did a 1:32.0 last time out as he comes through Clearways now and down the start-finish straight. Stay tight to the pit wall before coming up over the start line, and now to the outside line of the circuit. Moves him up to P11 for Ivor Salzburg there. So decent lap of 25.1, but he's currently just under 3 seconds off that pole time at the minute. Alan Drake Cruz is now coming in towards Clearways for another flying lap, 4/10 off the pole at the moment in that BMW M4, obviously one of the newer cars on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform, and he crosses the line to go into second place, only just half a tenth off the back of Brennan in P1. It's a close qualifying lap between the top 4-5 drivers.
Yeah, it's looking tight at the top already, and that is what we came here to see and witness, because that will translate to some good close racing action by the time we do get the hour started. You know, I think we're probably expecting pole position to be around about sort of that low 22, maybe even dipping into the high 21s by the time they fully get this track a bit more rubbed in. Oh, as the Ferrari we're riding on board here from Haugum goes a bit wide there. That's definitely going to put that lap to bed, as I'm sure he'll maybe get out the way, but never mind, we'll see what happens with him later on. Sandberg here, still yet to set a flying run, down at the back in 19th for the minute, but is he on a flying run now, I believe?
I believe he will be, yeah. He's on. It looks like he's on a flying lap at the moment. As who's just done a lap time? Westergaard there has just gone into P11. He was the other driver yet set a lap time. That'll be invalidated. The Assetto Corsa game doesn't like you really going too far over the curbs, and that one will mean that Sandberg has to go again for another lap then. The McLaren 720S Evo, I do believe, in the hands here of Elias Fernando in P7 at the moment. Currently just exactly a second off of pole position. Only needs 0.2 of a second though to go ahead of the driver in front of him and work his way into that P6. Solberg's in the pit, as is Pettersson down in 18th place, and that will hurt your lap a little bit there, just losing momentum out of Sheen, dropping a wheel onto the grass a little bit.
Yeah, through Stirling's now he goes. He probably will have lost a little bit of time, as you just said. I think this could determine a lot of people's laps here this evening. It is a narrow circuit here at Brands Hatch, and one little false move and you could find yourself well and truly on the grass, and just like that you could even lose control of the car altogether. But he did finish the lap. It wasn't an improvement, so he still stays in 7th for the moment, does Fernando.
Overgaard there goes P8 with an improved lap as well. Interesting to see that a few drivers already, excuse me, a few drivers aren't staying tight to the pit wall to complete their flying laps. They're going into that middle of the circuit, drifting over to the left-hand side, ready to start their next flying lap. I wonder if at the end of qualifying on their last runs, they'll try and keep it as tight to the pit wall as you can to try and maybe just let that car get its fastest run to the line. Salzburg goes up into P13, sorry, with an improved lap of a 1:24.6. And just looking at the top 7, just the top 10, just over 1 second between each other. Then you've kind of got a second field, really, from 11th down to 15th. Is only 7/10 of a second separating there, as Alan Drake Cruz goes into P1, and that is by 8,000th of a second ahead then of Brenham. So that is a fantastic lap time from Cruz, and just showing how tight this field is going to be tonight.
Yeah, that really does show. Oh, there's a car round facing the wrong way just there. They've obviously taken a trip through the grass, as we are riding on board here with Ancans at the moment. A lovely maroon coloured car we've got here. It does look fantastic. But yeah, once again, look, taking that wider line, not really hugging it, or is he? He's sort of in the middle of the circuit, probably setting up for another lap. But yeah, I think you're right in what you say. It does make an improvement. But I think you're right in what you say. I think by the time we get into the very much closing stages of this qualifying, they will all be hugging that inside line to gain every 1,000th of a second they can. And we can see it already. Only 8,000 separate 1 and 2. It really does. Every little bit counts.
Every little bit does count, and that's what's going to matter at the very end of this session. This is on board with Westergaard then in that Ford Mustang, brand new to the Assetto Corsa platform. He's just bailed on a lap time as he goes straight on at Druids to let maybe return to the garage. There he goes. Look, he's now going to try and go again. Great to see this car out there though. 2018 car, the Bentley Continental. Not really used much on the ACC platform anymore. A bit outdated, but unsure. I suppose one thing we could do with finding out is the BOP, the balance of performance, activated for this league? If it is, this really brings the Bentley Continental into play in this championship, but a very good, very quick car that can be used by these drivers, and it does suit the British circuits well, rides the bumps well, and goes over the curbs like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, Bentley famous for their lovely comfort in their cars that they produce and make. But you're right, it is a slightly older model, but it does still produce 570 brake horsepower with that 4-litre twin turbo V8. So it's definitely got some grunt down the straight. So it'd be nice to see how that pans out for him this evening. But back on board here with Amundsen in the BMW, currently sat in P4, some 6/10 off of provisional pole, and we can see what he can put together on this flying run that he is currently on. He does appear to be up at the moment, but let's see what it is when he does reach the start-finish line.
Yeah, let's see what it is when he reaches the start-finish line there. Amundsen, like you say, P4 6/10 off the provisional pole at the moment. 10 minutes into qualifying, so there's still 5 minutes there for enough to get 2, maybe 3 flying laps in, depending on where you are on the circuit. And again, just sticking to that outside line. Very interesting line coming out of Clearways then. Across the line he goes. No improvement for him there. Wonder if he just maybe stuck tighter to that pit wall, he'd find a bit more. Down through Paddock Hill Bend, up towards Druids he comes. Brake just as you hit the shadow of the bridge. Keep it nice and tight in. Just comes out wide and brings it back in for that later apex. Uses all the curb. Drops downhill now towards Graham Hill Bend on that left-hand side. Easy to take too much curb and just run a little wide here on the exit. Does it absolutely fantastically. Now in towards Surtees. Again, like Ashley said, a few different lines you can take through this corner. Late apex, bit of a wiggle through the corner there, just as he probably got the power down on the exit. And now down towards Hawthorns he comes on this lap that's looked okay, not brilliant at the moment. Into Hawthorns, down a couple of gears, flicks it through the right-hander, waits for that power, pick it up now before you come to Westfields. Try and get as much curve as you can, cut the corner almost, running out wide. Beautifully done through Dingle Dell. You don't feel that it's there. Uphill towards Sheen. Again, another corner. Cut it pretty much there. Beautifully done. Try and use that exit as much as he does. He brilliantly done on the exit there. Into Sterling's on the apex. Uses that curve on the outside. Possibly a little too much. Well, only time will tell as he comes in towards Clearways now. And it's been an alright lap, only 1 or 2 little mistakes. Goes out wide, does he bring it back in to end this lap? He does. Stays tight to the pit wall, now goes to the middle of the circuit. Any improvement on this lap time? He does improve, stays P5, but goes within now 5/10 of a second.
Yeah, that looked pretty neat and tidy. It's definitely better than anything I could muster up, I can tell you that. So, no, good lap from Amundsen there as we now look on board here with the black and red car of... Oh, here's a big one for you to try and pronounce here. Udegaardstuen. That's my best attempt. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
I was going to go with that one I've been sort of looking at the entry list all day and trying to pick them up all day, but no avail. So I'm glad you've tried that one first before I have.
It helps living in Denmark. It's not too far from Norway, so pronunciations are not that far off sometimes. No improvement, though, from the driver in the McLaren car here. So he does stay in P10 at the moment, but it is still tight in that top pack. And like you said earlier, it does look as though we are getting a little bit of a two-legged race here, sort of a front 10 and a rear 9. But they are seeming to be closing up as the qualifying's going on.
Yeah, the track improving as the qualifying goes on. And that's going to be the main thing, whether this track is fast or optimum at the moment. I'd imagine with the 60-minute practice session these guys have had, the track will be going into its optimum stage of the session. And that is going to be the key thing here on the Assetto Corsa platform. Whether that track grips up, and it will always grip up as this session goes on. There's not a lot of marbles as well at the moment, so that indicates that it's possibly only just turned optimum, maybe still running as a fast circuit as well. But Cruz at the minute, 8,000th of a second ahead of Brenham in that P2 position, and this is Odegaardson, who is coming up towards Sheen Curve here, sneaking 2 final laps, but let's wait and see. And he does move up to P9, so there we go.
Yeah, he did. He improved P9 there now, so he's not far off P8, but a little bit more to go. And like you say, we are now very much in the closing stages here of qualifying, just under, I will get there, just over a minute to go now until we see the checkered flag come out. And if they're not already on their flying lap, then they are just coming round to begin their flying lap. I think anybody in the pits now, qualifying is well and truly over for them, as Nordberg just making a little trip on the grass at the top there at Hawthorne Bend, as he now through Dingledale and then Sheen Curve and now into Stirling's. It's looking still neat and tidy the rest of the lap, but he's got enough time now to, if he's got the fuel in the car, to go for one more.
He'll have one more chance, and drivers in the pit lane will probably need to get out now to get around, but again their laps are going to be hot laps, and he's done, he's bailed, so that is his qualifying done. Nordberg will not improve then in this qualifying today. Not only is it a good start by getting that first pole position of a brand new championship in a brand new season, you always want to start strong, and pole position's the best way to do it. Stays tight towards the pit wall now, and look at him, stays really tense. So a great lap there in the blue and yellow Bentley. Great to see, but his drivers are all finishing their current lap times and returning to the pit lane. A few improvements, and Cruz manages to take that.
Tuck up nice and tight once again to extract every millisecond out of this lap that he can. What's it going to be as he reaches the line? Final one to do it. Oh, he goes up to 9th.
Moves himself up to 9th. That is a great improvement there for Odegaard at the very end of the session. And looks like this. And I have to say, we only got told the calendar tonight.
Well, both of them are absolutely fantastic tracks to go to and race at, regardless of which is your favourite or if you don't like them either. It's still a spectacle to put on. And I'll bring it to the motorbikes, actually. You mentioned it there. They raced there, obviously, at Valencia. This circuit here for Brands Hatch actually started off, and I learned this all, bit of research, actually started off as a motorcycle circuit, and it used to be driven on dirt before it was even asphalted. So it was brilliant to look into the history of this circuit, because it was a big eye-opener, and I learnt quite a lot.
Yeah, it was very interesting when you look back on some of these tracks at where they actually originated and started as. And yeah, interesting to see. But we are getting ready for the race. The drivers will be on the grid momentarily. We are just having a few problems at the moment, so do please bear with us. We will get the drivers on the grid. I believe they have a full formation lap either way to go through the rest of the format of this championship, the format of these races. So we've had our 60-minute free practice. We've had our 15-minute qualifying. It's a 60-minute race with a pit window that opens on 59 minutes. So what that means is drivers are required to do a pit stop. They've got 58 minutes to do a pit stop between minute 59 and minute 1 of the race remaining. So 59 minutes left and 1 minute left of that race. They've got to do a pit stop. Refueling is the mandatory requirement in this series. Now, it is a fixed time refueling, which this means it will take every driver 25 seconds, regardless of whether they go full fuel for the hour race or half fuel it, go light, then go heavy, then go light. Regardless, if you're adding 1 to 120 litres, it is 25 seconds in the race. That is mandatory. Tyre change is optional. Now, a tyre change will roughly take you 5 seconds longer. That'll be 30 seconds for the pit stop, in which, Ashley, isn't always the worst thing to do. if you've got pace and if you know you could possibly gain that 5 seconds, you might want to cost yourself the extra 5 seconds, dependent on the damage you may have sustained in the race as well. Change them tyres, have fresh rubber for that back half of the race.
Yeah, there's a few different factors you've mentioned there, and they all do come into play, and it is quite a big decision that weighs on the mind, especially during a race that takes an hour long. You know, it might seem quite short, but to them in the car, it can feel for an eternity sometimes. But if you can change the tyres and still get out into some clean air, or maybe changing the tyres that will make you get into some clean air, could definitely be the strategy to go for, because 5 seconds, it is not the largest gap in the world to close down.
No, it is not. Now, I actually have something. Doing mainly ACC commentary myself over on another series, I actually have a thing in front of me that will tell me the time lost for like a drive-through penalty, 1 litre of fuel, and the time lost for a tyre change around that circuit in percentages. So basically telling us what they lose percentage per lap for this circuit. So for Brands Hatch, if you do change your tyres, you lose 64% of the lap in this race. That is quite a bit of the lap. That is quite substantial. So then any damage added to that, you know, that is going to really hurt a lot more. That is 54 seconds of a race lap that their drivers will lose. Now, obviously, if they just go in for the mandatory 25-second pit stop, they'll only lose the 49 seconds, so not as bad. But still, when you're only looking, 64% of the lap, that is a good chunk to really think of your strategy.
Yeah, you definitely have to take that into consideration, because like you say, 64%, you're well over the halfway mark, of course. You then really start have to thinking about, if a car does then catch back up to me, still on the lead lap, you're a lap down. You have to sort of yield that position to a degree, even if you are sort of on a differing strategy. So it really does all come into consideration.
Okay, we are just going to pop to a quick advert while we try and get these technical issues sorted, so please bear with me. So we are back with the live action. Apologies, not sure what happened there, but we are on board with Alkson here, who is coming in towards Westfield. And we're hopefully going to get all the information back up on the screen as soon as possible, so we'll be able to see what lap and order of the race with time gaps at the moment. But it is Cruz who kept hold of that race. Good move though up the inside, coming through Sheen Curve there. That is now to the outside of Sterling. Does he have that one done? Yes, he does. Manages to get back on the apex. I'll tell you what, Alkson here really on a charge, because now he's on the back of the McLaren just in front of him with what I believe is Anderson. And looked left and right, but couldn't get that move done. And he's got a lot of pace in this Mercedes-Benz AMG.
Yeah, he certainly does. It looked as though he gave him a little kiss on the rear of that McLaren. So a little bit naughty stuff, but nothing happened and came of it. So I think he'll get away with that one nice and easy. But yeah, looking desperately left and right. I think he's gone round the outside here into Paddock Hill. And I think he's got the position very much done as well. Into Druids. I think he had that sewn up, very nicely done indeed, as we now take a look here at Pettersson, who's just taken out all of the inside curve bollards. cause any problems there, but he's on the back of that Ford in front of him of Westergaard as they make their way through Surtees and now onto the Hawthorne Straight.
Down up towards Hawthorne Hill they come into the left-hander. You see that Ford Mustang, and I tell you what, that is the quickest car, or one of the quickest cars in the straight line at the minute. Somebody's kicking up a bit of dirt in the foreground, not sure who, but Petson here trying to get on the back of Westergaard in that Ford Mustang. Bit lacking on its rotation through the left and right corners, which is not too bad around this Brands Hatch circuit. It's pretty much not one after another, but Zandvoort next week, I reckon, is a circuit where Westergaard might struggle in his Ford Mustang. Just depends on his preparation that he'll have into the week. You just see the Bentley there straddling the curb nicely, but the Mustang is equal to the Bentley over the curbs in this game. The bigger, bulkier cars seem to be able to ride them a lot better. You just see the tyres just sliding on the rear of that McLaren. This is on board. I've already forgot the pronunciation of this guy already, but Solberg is just ahead of him, who had a bit of a slide coming through Paddock Hill Bend. Solberg already goes defensive, and now the McLaren's going to try and look to the outside line, but that lovely blue and yellow Bentley there manages to hold on to the position down through Druids.
I'll help you out, Matthew. It's Aldegaard Stuen. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we'll get there eventually by the end of the hour, I'm sure. But he is having a little look at this battle in front, probably weighing up his options on where he can potentially make a move, keeping it neat and tidy through Surtees, making sure he hangs onto the back of this trio of cars in front of him. He's probably just waiting for something to happen here, a bit of maybe someone putting a wheel wrong in the grass potentially, or getting held up, and he'll be, I'm sure, ready to pounce at a moment's notice.
Solberg there, very, very loose on the rear as he came through Hawthorne's, managed to keep it all together, and again he's a little wide through Westfields there, down through Dingledale up towards Sheen now for the... I'd love to tell you which lap it is, but I'm not quite sure. There's a McLaren off though, and that is Ankins, who is gone off at Sheen Curve there. Through Sterling they go. Now Solberg moves up into that top six. He can head after Fernando, but it's a BMW 1 to 4 at the minute. It is still Cruz who leads from Brennan, but Brennan does have that fastest lap of the race at the moment. The purple little indicator on his position number telling you that he's got the fastest lap of the race as they come towards the start line and towards Paddock Hill Bend yet again. And it is Erdegaardston who is now up into P7 and is going quite well at the moment. And his best lap was done on the last lap, a 1:23.877. So decent pace at the moment, but that Bentley just showing us what it's still got in a straight line.
Yeah, it's looking pretty quick, I must admit. He's not really losing to the McLaren. Oh, never mind. Here goes Alderston. He's gone a little bit wide. He's lost the rear grip, and he's found that he's now lost the position, of course. Ankert has managed to get back on through after he had that moment a lap before. He's picked it up quite nicely once again, but that's obviously turned out quite costly.
It turned out quite costly, and that's the problem at Graham Hill Bend. You can just have a few wrong moments. It's a corner that looks like you can take it a bit quicker than what you actually can, and yeah, for Erdegaardson there, he's really struggled to get that one through Graham Hill Bend, and sadly for him, we have not, he had a bit of a slide, and that was the problem that he had. We have the timings now on the screen, 5 minutes into this 1 hour race, and we have the camera angles all sorted now, so hopefully all the SUs are now fixed and we can get back on with this fantastic race. But here is Cruz, and look at the top three, half a second splitting them, all three BMWs in a line here, and it is Cruz from Brennan from Nordberg who is going for this podium and for the race win. And Nordberg does a personal best lap, 4 tenths quicker on the last lap than the two cars in front of him. But actually, this is the crucial moment. At the moment, the pit window will be open. Drivers haven't came into the pits yet. What fuel loads will drivers be running? That is probably the biggest story, because each litre of fuel load is a kilo roughly you're saving in these cars, and that is everything you're going to need to weigh up at the moment in terms of the different weights of what cars are running what.
It's an interesting topic of conversation, really, because there's a few different ways in my mind you can go about it. At least you can either go for quite a short first stint, try and gain as many positions as you can, particularly at the start of a race. There are many opportunities to be taken. Get into the pits, put your big load of fuel on, and then go as long as possible in the clean air, no doubt, at the back. Alternatively, you can go straight down the middle, split the race in two, or the other option, go long to begin with, see what you can pick up, try and avoid any incidences, and then make a last sort of splash and dash to finish the race off. So in my mind, those are your three options, really, but I'm sure a lot of surprises will be thrown our way.
Yeah, let's wait and see. I know a lot of drivers tend to go around that halfway stage of the race, then tend to see how the tyres are maybe feeling, because tyres on this ACC platform, depending on how aggressive you are and how much you go through, tend to last just over the hour mark before you're needing to really change them tyres. So with running that hour race, that kind of puts you in a window at the end of the race of the grip levels just starting to get to a position where they just start to feel a little strange. But either way, the drivers will know how they feel throughout this session. Brenham now then coming down towards Graham Hill Bend. Got up really close to the back of Cruz at Druids a moment ago. And these two BMWs, they look experienced drivers. They've now gapped Nordberg. So Nordberg not able to stick with these two. And these two just starting to put a bit of daylight between third and fourth place and making this a two-horse race at the moment. Not sure what's happened to Anderson out front. Maybe he's already done his pit stop, but he's already 45 seconds off the back. That is a long way behind already.
Yeah, it certainly is. It could well be that he has done that. Maybe we can have a little look at the timing screen to see if that is the case. But yeah, you're quite right with these two out front. They are absolutely nose to tail with each other, and I think qualifying showed that pace-wise, there's not a lot in it. Norberg just about hanging on to the back. He's hovering around that second mark that you can see there on the timing tower. Yeah, we'll see how that battle unfolds as we take a look back towards the back then. Nilsson here in his McLaren. He's a few seconds down from Solberg in 15th. They seem to be running pretty much on their own, sort of a couple seconds in between them. But that should mean they do have some nice clean air going over the car.
Yeah, as does Odegaard here coming up over the Sheen curve, and this is the Ford Mustang of Westergaard. Then we're still with that Bentley of Pettersson on the back of him, and it's going to be interesting to see these lap times pop up here on the side. 22s, the leaders are lapping down in that mid-pack. Looks like you're in the 24s. Sandberg ahead of these two had a bit of a horrible lap last time around as the Mustang drifts a little wide. Their understeer is very wide. The Bentley's now going to have a look up the inside in towards Druids. A little too far back, but just shows his nose to that of Westergaard. Can he get a better exit? He's going to be on the outside for that of Graham Hill Bend, and he tucks back in behind. And you're just starting to see the Ford Mustang, I think, here just go through a bit of a phase where it's just starting to go a little looser on that rear end, and the drivers might be overdriving the car a little bit. And Westergaard at the moment, again you see another wiggle and a snap through that Surtees, and that could give Pettersson the advantage in the look he needs. But the Mustang's grunt down a straight is fantastic, just a bit better than the Bentleys, and now you see him just start to creep ahead. You saw the Bentley gain up until the final third of that straight, but look, dabbing on the brakes a second time through Hawthorns here is Westergaard. He's clearly not happy in that car at the moment, just sliding it around and a little twitchy so far. The Mustang driver just looking all out of place, while Pettersson is sat waiting to pounce.
Yeah, it definitely looks as though he could have been overdriving that car in these early stages of this race. You know, the rear was really quite squirrely when he puts the power down. And of course we saw the Bentley almost had a chance to pounce up at Hawthorne Bend. We may see another opportunity for him down towards Paddock Hill Bend now, turn number 1. It really just depends on if this Bentley can get a good exit out of Clark Curve. I think he might have to wait for another opportunity to show itself. But yeah, that Ford Mustang does seem to be struggling, gone a bit wide. Bentley holding slightly tighter line. Will we see a move? Or not quite, wasn't enough alongside to really make it stick.
No, he wasn't indeed, and the driver that's gaining on these two is Odegaard in the background. He's a couple of about 5 or 6 seconds behind them at the moment, 4 or 5 seconds, sorry, but he's lapping quicker than them, so that'll prove that he's on a charge at the moment. Ankins here, P7, he's heading after another Bentley of Solberg, who's driving really well in his Bentley at the moment. Further up the field, this is the two race leaders as well. Here is Brenham, who is still within 0.3 of a second then of Cruz coming up through Sheen Curve yet again, and Cruz just dropping 2 wheels onto the grass there. Not the fastest way through this circuit, but the bonus for him as he does it again, that's now not going to help. That's going to really hurt him, as Brenham now will try and take advantage of this down in towards Clearways, but he can't at the moment. Now use that momentum through Clearways down the start finish straight. The problem with this circuit is bar coming out of Surtees down towards Hawthorne, there's no real straights that you can use that momentum and use that advantage of a driver just dropping a wheel onto the grass to get alongside and past.
No, that is the trickiness to this circuit, and it is quite narrow as well in some parts of it too. So, you know, what you want to do to really try and make a move stick is try and get sort of a nose or a wheel just enough alongside to put your opponent slightly offline from where they want to be, and then really try and, you know, eke out that advantage that you've just gained by making them in a sort of in a position they do not want to be in, and then really hammer it home from there and try and make it stick. But these guys are in the same car, both in the BMW, and it's a level playing field in that regard. So this is about grit, determination, and some raw talent coming up to see who's going to take this.
I just saw there that Brenham, as he come out to Surtees, the exit curve has a bit of a bump in it halfway, just on the exit of the curb. Brenham seemed to hit that hard, but has the momentum through Hawthorns and Westfield as he gains that back up to the rear end of Cruz. Coming up now towards Sheen, and up and over the curb they go as Anderson does his best lap of the race, the 26.7 down the back end of the field. Now through Sterling's. This is where we saw a few mistakes from Cruz earlier on. Nothing wrong this time. And Brenham at the moment, it's patient game as well. We're 12 minutes into a 1 hour race. Pit stop still to be made by most of the drivers, we do believe. And it is a patient game there. It's just understeering through Clearways was Cruz a little bit. You saw a little wiggle as he tried to correct the car onto the start straight. Nothing too bad for him though, as Brenham actually lapped a tenth slower. But at the moment as well, actually, it's that patient game, isn't it? It's 12 minutes into an hour long race. Pit stop still to be made. Anything can still play out here.
Yeah, it definitely is, Matthew. It is, taking your time, picking your moments when they do come towards you, because you do not want to put a foot wrong too quickly, as they're looking very much nose to tail, the two out front there, as we got this brilliant view from Norberg. A little look to the inside from Brenham into Surtees. Wasn't able to get anything from it though, and now they're heading on down towards Hawthorn Bend at the end of this short straight. And you mentioned earlier, I think that is the trickiness to this circuit, is there aren't there many long straights. It is difficult to take advantage of that momentum, as looks as though it was washing out a little bit there from Norberg.
Just a little bit. I'd imagine he wouldn't get too much washout being that far back, but hey, drivers just seem to be struggling and pushing the limits. Now the Ford Mustang of Vestergaard has caught onto the back of Sandberg, looking around the outside of Hawthorns. That's not going to work through there, and Pettersson can't take advantage in his Bentley. He pulls out to have a look into Westfields, again not being able to take full advantage, as Sandberg here in his pink and black BMW just struggling a little bit, and the Ford Mustang of Vestergaard here has really caught onto the back of him pretty quickly, because he was nowhere near him a few laps ago when we went on board. And Pettersson might now fancy his chances of getting two places in this fight at the moment between the BMW, the Ford and the Bentley Continental. So great to see three different manufacturers coming in this pack, and the Bentley got a great run through Clearways there. Look at the momentum it's picked up on the Ford Mustang. Is he going to pull out? He goes to the outside line of Paddock Hill Bend. The Ford defends. Later on the brakes goes the Bentley, right around the outside of Paddock Hill. Does he get it stopped in time? The Ford had to have a little dab on the brakes once again. They're still side by side coming into Druids. The Bentley has to run a little deep, gives the Ford that inside line, but now the Bentley Continental can show its muscle out of a straight and gets up past the Ford Mustang. That is a great move by Pettersson, who nearly loses the rear, then coming through Graham Hill Bend, and might invite Westergaard back onto the rear end of him. But you have to say, Pettersson, job well done through them first two corners. He set him up an absolute peach.
Yeah, that was a masterclass in overtaking from Pettersson there, and I think what he really needed was that car in front to help hold up Westergaard in that Ford Mustang. It just sort of helped him really make sure he could get alongside and potentially put his opponent off in front of him. So no, brilliant stuff, amazing to watch and see unfold before our very eyes. But back to this lead battle, Norberg seems to have caught back up to this duo once again. Cruz still leads, and Brenham is very much in hot pursuit. Nothing really between these two drivers. This could be a battle, I would imagine, all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, the pit strategy is going to be very interesting there, as Brenham just has a look again, shows the nose to Cruz, but Cruz is not flustered by this. But now look, did they just tap from bumper to rear bumper there, as Nordberg is now gaining on the back of these lead two. So Cruz starting to become a bit of a mobile chicane at the moment. He's just starting to hold Brenham up and allow that of Nordberg to come back into play here. And Munson isn't too far behind either, and now Pettersson's having a look on the BMW of Sandberg, and that has nearly allowed Westergaard to have a look around the outside of Druids. And this is a great little battle between these three. Alkson is nearly there in the battle in the background as well, in his Mercedes-Benz, who had a mighty start to this race. He's now going to try and get into that first quarter of it really strong. But Pettersson here, he looks fired up for this one at Brands Hatch. Bentley on British soil, and it looks like it's trying to do the business. He's looking for moves in this race, in this 16 minutes gone in it. And yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, he does seem to be the driver on the charge, it seems, and it really does seem like he's going to get past that car sooner or later in the next lap or so, I would imagine, because he really is trying to hammer it home. As we look here back towards Haugham in his lovely red Ferrari, he is chasing Axel car in front of him for 12th position. Equally though, these two are catching up on that trio. They're going to make this a 5-way battle, it seems, as we head towards Clearways and Clark Curve to start another lap around this circuit. Sorry, I was going to say, we'll just see how it ends into Paddock Hill Bend here, turn number 1. I don't think the gap's going to come down quite enough though.
No, I don't, because I think Pedersen was trying to look around the outside there of Sandberg as well. He's now having a look up the inside, it looks like. A couple of car lengths back of the Ferrari, thinks of ascended up the inside, but gets back into the rear of the Mercedes-Benz. The interesting thing here is undercut on ACC is normally the stronger move. Are we going to see one of these 5 drivers think, do you know what, I could possibly jump a couple here? Maybe for the likes of Alton or Haugham here to maybe just undercut the drivers in front and get ahead, especially while they're having a squabble. That undercut seems likely, I think, to maybe work while he's trying to battling it out, but so far you have to say Pedersen looks fired up, and look at this, speaking of fired up, 3 for the lead. Brennan was having a look on Cruz, and Nordberg is right with the leaders now, and Amundsen in 4th place has got that gap down to under 3 seconds. Though he's starting to gain over these 3 who are just holding each other a little bit. Back markers are going to start to come into this. Look, Anderson 1 minute 16 behind the leader, and the leaders are lapping 1 minute 24s, so he's not a million miles away. He's probably heading up towards Druids. They're probably going to start to see him on that track. Big wiggle, Nordberg well held, and Brenham again still having a look, trying to show the nose to Cruz out front, to no avail though at the moment.
Yeah, I felt like last lap they were almost side by side. I was trying to keep an eye on that gap whilst we were watching the battle a bit further back in the pack. It came down to under a tenth of the second between Cruz and Brenham a lap ago, so I felt like there was something we may have just missed out on, but they are still going at it very hard indeed. It does seem to be all fair as well at the moment. Nordberg really is struggling to maintain the pace of these two out front, as Brenham might have a little look here. Cruz taking that defensive line, sweeps back across though for the fastest way through the corner, and for the moment they are still line astern, although it is very much nose to gearbox now as they make their way through Dingledale. And we might come back to just a minute because we are now side-by-side action. Here's Westergaard on Pedersen in the Bentley. It's a battle of grunt really this between the Ford Mustang and the British Bentley, and the Bentley is going to come out on top on this occasion. But these two, they're still behind Sandberg there in the BMW. I can't imagine they should be there for too much longer. They do seem to have superior pace.
They do indeed, and Haugham got past Alxlin there in that little squabble as well, coming through Surtees. The Ferrari got ahead of the Mercedes-Benz as Fernando in P5. He's maybe thought the undercut might be on here on the leaders. We'll take a look as he's gone into the pit lane from P6. So the McLaren, the first driver that we're aware of into that pit lane in this race. This is going to be an interesting one though, as the BMW, look, the Bentley now tries to tuck underneath, gets a great run through Clearways, side by side coming towards the line. There you go now, and the Bentley tucks to the racing line. Thank you very much. Through the inside he goes, and that Bentley of Pedersen moves up to P8. And you imagine now with his pace over Sandberg, he can start to pull away. Westergaard might fancy a look up the inside here, and the Ferrari looks like he's going to try and challenge around the outside, but it's not the ideal line through Druids. He is now, this is getting racy, although look at that. There goes Haugham up the inside at Graham Hill Bend. Did he just shove the Ford Mustang there of Westergaard off? He did, and that's it, lost him 2 places. And now Auxon goes up the inside of the pair of them at Surtees, and they lose 2 places, does Westergaard. Auxon keeps where he was, but it is all happening in this midfield battle, all for 8th place at the moment. That's allowed Sandberg and Pedersen to just pull away a little bit, and if you look in the foreground, Pedersen has already dropped Sandberg in this race. It is all happening here.
Yeah, through went the Mercedes-Benz. He took his opportunities when it came a knocking. We can definitely see that. And something's happened with Brenham. He's down a second and a half back from Cruz, and Nordberg's trying to have a look up the inside here in Paddock Hill Bend, unable to make a move there. It is quite a tricky corner to get a move done, but we did see it earlier on from the Bentley. Into Druids they go now. The gap's closing back up once again. I think the back marker may have caught Cruz napping a little bit, because the gap has dropped quite significantly in just a few corners. Oh, a bit wide there from Nordberg through Graham Hill Bend. but it all seems to neaten itself out once again as they make their way through Surtees onto this back straight and up towards Hawthorne.
One thing to mention in the Assetto Corsa competency-only platform as well is you get 3 strikes for track limits. So if you're deemed to have taken too many track limits, you'll get 3 strikes. Your 4th strike is a drive-through penalty. So drivers got to be careful of that as well. As what is happening here down in 11th place, Haugham is now back through on Alkson, as is Westergaard, who was all out of shape through Graham Hill Bend. And that is an interesting move done. Now the Mercedes-Benz trying to look for a way past, but he can't get past the Ford Mustang, whose grunt is going to try and pull him around the outside, down Pilgrim's Drop in towards Hawthorne's Hill. Round the outside at Hawthorne's. Does the Mustang go? Yes, he does. Great move round the outside. Keep it in the limits. Bit of a wiggle. Manages to hold on to it, though, over the curb. And now look in the background. Odegaard fancies a bit of this piece of the action as well, because he's right with them. It was 5 a minute ago. The 2 of them in front pulled away. It's now back to being a 4-car battle. And this is absolutely extraordinary. 22.5 minutes into this race. And already some fantastic action here at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, it doesn't disappoint, does it? Brands Hatch, it's always put on an absolute spectacle, and it's doing so once again for us. Odegaard going around the outside. Oh, he did go for it, but the Mercedes is actually entering into the pit lane. It is excellent. He got the move done a few laps ago. He's lost it all, so now he's thinking maybe go for the undercut and not do the racing so much on the circuit, but more in the pit strategy itself. But here, back on board with Haugham in that scarlet red Ferrari, having a little look up the inside of that Ford Mustang. Very much feels like that blue Mustang is a bit of a cork in a bottle here, because Pettersson and Sandberg do seem to have gone gallivanting off down the circuit, as he does seem to be holding up more cars that have caught up to the back of him.
And you feel that Westergaard just needs to get back into that rhythm he was in earlier in the race. He caught onto the back of Sandberg on his own while defending from Pettersson, but he just needs to get back into a rhythm. He's lost a couple of places. His head seems to have dropped slightly in this race as Axelin here still in that pit lane. And this is a, like we said, mandatory 25-second stop as Haugham here having a look up the inside into Westfields. Tries to stick the nose there as they're coming towards Dingle Dell now. Down the hill they go. That Mustang, though, just look at its grunt as it pulls out the corners. You'd have thought the Ferrari would have been able to keep the nose there up towards Sheen. But no, the Ford Mustang has other ideas, and that is probably what's saving Westergaard at the moment as Ankins comes into the pits, and that's allowed a couple of drivers up the order of Solberg and Odegaardsten up into 6th place.
Yeah, that grunt is definitely seeming to be that Ford Mustang's saving grace. I really thought the Ferrari had him there. It was very much a heart-in-mouth moment as they went through Dingle Dell, but they are currently now firing it through Paddock Hill Bend, turn number 1, up towards Druids. Tricky right-hander here. I feel like the optimal line doesn't necessarily always mean tucking into the apex. You can run it wide and still maintain a lot of speed and momentum. And now down towards Graham Hill onto a very short back straight here, it's called Cooper back straight. It doesn't feel that long, it doesn't seem to be long enough for a straight, but it is one nonetheless. Through Surtees now and then up towards the proper back straight of the circuit. And I would imagine we're going to watch that Ford Mustang once again just pull away a little bit, and that means the Ferrari's going to struggle into Hawthorne and then Westfields unless he makes a bit of an error. And
this is where the Ford Mustang of Westergaard just needs to get back into that rhythm. There is Odegaard, just dropping a bit wide onto the grass out of the exit of Hawthorne. Westergaard just needs to settle and get back into a rhythm. The leaders are back on each other. Cruz and Brenham back into a great battle as Nordberg has dropped to 1.3 off the back again, and Cruz just using all that run off there. Pettersson is pitted. Solberg and Nielsen comes into the pit lane now, and Anderson gets ahead of them. So Anderson either has pitted or hasn't pitted yet. We obviously missed the start of the race, so it's going to be interesting to see if he pits later on in the race. But Pettersson, the Bentley, has pitted and is behind Ankins down in 13th and 14th place. So it's going to be interesting to see when Sandberg and Westergaard and Haugham pit as here comes to the outside of Hawthorne's, that of Brenham having a look. Does he try and tuck back underneath on the exit in towards Westfield? He does indeed. Tries to show the nose but can't do it at the minute. On the brakes goes Cruz, and this is brilliant driving from the two leaders. It's been brilliant driving from everybody, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and really clean racing. That's what you want to see. through Sheen they go. And Brenham here, does he think of that undercut, the fuel strategies? And I'm sure they've been working tirelessly hard on what they're going to do, what their strategy is going to be. But you can work as hard as you want off the grid and off the track. It's the race situation where you may have to adapt to change, and that's what can win or lose you this race. And Cruz at the moment, he's doing the business so far. But Brenham at the moment is fighting and he's working hard. Whatever happened a couple of laps ago when he dropped back off the pace, he's refound his form and refound his rhythm. And what Brenham's done is what Westergaard needs to do. Get back in that zone and put them laps in that we know he's capable of doing.
Yeah, it's one thing saying it, Matthew, though it's another thing actually putting it into practice. Heart rate is very much elevated, your nerves set in, and mistakes such as that from Norberg can easily be made, and just like that you lose another couple of tenths, and that could be the difference between a win and finishing second on that podium. But those two out front, Cruz and Brenham at the moment, not really putting much of a foot wrong. Cruz doing his absolute best at defence. We're looking on board here then with Solberg's brilliant sunrise yellow Bentley. I'll tell you what, that's a brilliant livery, isn't it? I do love the colours there blending into one from down and up. But he's on his own at the moment. He's 9.7 seconds off the lead. As we cut back to Haugen once again, very much in the fray of another battle. And I think Odegaard is going to be coming through this time on the inside in Surtees Bend. And now he can have a chance at potentially getting past that Ford Mustang of Westergaard. It's going to be some doing though, because like we said time and time again now, that Ford really does have a lot of front end power and can just put away on the short straights that we have, and it ultimately is saving him very much.
It is saving him as Cruz comes into the pits now, so he's decided to make his pit stop. Anderson in 18th place, but look at that, Almondson as well comes into the pits for P4 in the race, so he's coming to the pits. This allows Brenham now some clear air, and interestingly the chance to maybe go even longer and overcut Cruz depending on his pit strategy.
Yeah, that's ultimately what he's going to have to try and do here is beat him in the pit lane, I feel, because he's done everything he can on the circuit at the moment, and Cruz has put that that BMW everywhere it needs to be in order to keep him behind. So now he's probably going to try and think, well, if I can't get him on the circuit at the moment, let's try and do him on the strategy instead. He'll go for that overcut and hope to put some really good laps in now to try and make that and pull it off.
Yeah, indeed he will. This is going to be a fantastic race to see what happens. Now that the pit stops are starting to happen, Westergaard comes into the pit lane. So the Ford Mustang now releases the two Ferraris behind him. He's into the pits for his stop. Interesting to see that he's not really been battling with the two cars behind. Where he comes out over Pettersson, I think Pettersson's going to have the upper hand over him, as he come out ahead of Alxlin here as well. So Westergaard may be around the Alxlin car out of the pit lane, and Brenham doesn't go for that overcut massively. He reacts straight away, as does Norberg, to the pit stop of Cruz, proving that drivers here just pitting around that halfway mark, maybe a little earlier. Cruz is only coming up through Hawthorns Hill now, but don't forget you lose 65% of your lap just under for that pit stop, so it's a huge disadvantage for the driver pitting on what is such a short lap. Over 50% really is a real killer.
Yeah, it absolutely is, but we do have a new leader of the race now as Solberg jumps into P1 whilst we have a few more cars into the pits, as we're still riding on board here with Cruz as he makes his way through Sterling's down towards Clearway and then into Curve Corner. This is crucial for him, and it's also crucial for Brenham, of course, in each of their races. Who is going to come out on the pit exit? Who's going to be in front? You can see there Cruz just in the background making his way through Paddock Hill now, as inside is Brenham. Brenham's ahead. Brenham has done him in the pit strategy.
That's a great pit strategy from Brenham, a great call. Clearly that in lap of Brenham's has done him the world of good. The pace, the clear air, as Cruz is trying to force the door open through Druids, but it can't happen. Now Cruz was once the hunter, now the huntee, has to go after Brenham in this race, and what a strategy from the team there for Brenham. Got that clear air. One lap is all he needed to manage to just pull them couple of tenths and get out in front in this race. Great pit strategy, great call from the team to get him in and get this one done. That is absolutely brilliant, and it really has been a great call from the team there in that one. Westergaard lost out to Alxlin, so Alxlin pitting early jumped Westergaard by a margin. So great stuff from him there as well. This is going to be Fantastic, the end of this race. Cruz now, he's the one who's doing the hunting. He's the one who's now becoming the aggressor.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of confidence in yourself to be able to pull off a strategy like that. It's very easy to put a foot wrong on that in-lap, if you like, knowing you've only got that lap to try and get ahead of your rival. And the fact that he's managed to pull it off without a hitch is something to do, and it's something to really spectate as well. So no, fair play to Brenham. He's done everything he needs to, and now he's just going to have to do what Cruz was doing all of that first half of the race, and that is just making sure he keeps his rival behind. Let's see how that pans out for him. But we're back on board here with Solberg. He's still leading this Grand Prix at the moment, but of course has yet to make that required pit stop. Oh, look at that, four-wheel drift through Sheen Curve now and into Sterling. That was brilliant to see from the Bentley. It's got a lot of weight behind it, so I'm surprised it was able to do it.
Yeah, managed to do that pretty spectacularly, and I'm just trying to work a few things out here. If you're losing 49 seconds for that pit stop, that is in and out with the loss of the tyre change as well, I reckon here that Solberg's going to come out around the Nordberg area, Amundsen area, which for me is a great strategy from Solberg to run as long as he has. Possibly, well, obviously filling that cool car a little heavier than normal. Odegaard also still to pit. Can Solberg here with his pace eke out enough to maybe get that up to 49, 54 seconds to Brenham and be able to, you know, just get ahead of him on that one as well? 42 seconds is the gap. Needs about another 10 seconds, I'd say, to really do it.
Yeah, looking at it though, it's coming down too quickly between him and Brennan. It's already 40.9, 41 seconds. It's hovering around that mark. I think it's just been slashed once again by Cruz and Brennan here, battling for third and fourth on the road at the moment. But this is really the net lead of the race, as the two in front of them still yet to make that pit stop. In my mind, they either need to do the stop soon, or if they are going to try and go long, then they really need to hope that they can get moves done quite quick and easy when they have that much fresher, I would imagine they're going to pit for new tyres at the same time. They'll have that fresher rubber to really attack any car that is in between them and that podium spot. But it's hard to judge at this point. We're only just over the halfway mark, 33, nearly 34 minutes gone. It's too early to really call it, I'd say, but the gap's, well, it's about 43 now, so maybe it could go up. Solberg seems to be doing a good job.
Way too early at the moment to say, and like you say, 54 seconds for a tyre change. That's going to put them around the P7, P8 fight at the moment, sorry, around the P8 position. But with that fresh rubber, will that allow them the chance to maybe just, you know, be a bit grippier, be a bit quicker at the end of this race, lighter fuel, newer tyres? That's going to be the biggest question. Odegaard pits now from P2. He's going to tumble down the standings a little more than Solberg. But Solberg doing a fantastic job in this race at the moment. Just going to look at the last lap times. Solberg did a 24.3 as Brenham does a 22.8. So pace not quite there from Solberg at the moment. But it's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on as we go through this race. He has done a best of a 22.9. So, yeah, interesting one at the moment. Maybe just made a mistake or got caught up in a bit of traffic somewhere in this race.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case, but I think we'll just keep looking at it for the moment, see how things begin to pan out. Odegaard Stewart here, P8 currently in that red and black McLaren. Oh, dips a little bit of a wheel in the gravel there through Paddock Hill Bend on the exit and now up towards Druids. He's just over a minute away from Solberg out in front. But ultimately we're still waiting for that pit stop from Solberg, so really and truthfully he's only about 20 seconds off the net lead, which is still going to be Brenham by the time we see that final pit stop being made. Look at this though, Solberg's having to navigate some traffic though now. Into Druids they go. Oh, he was getting very close to the back of that McLaren. What's going on here? It's all happening now.
That is Sandberg fighting with Odegaard, is it not? Sandberg, no, that's Haugum, sorry, in the background. No, it is Odegaard. Yeah, Odegaard, who's just come out of the pit lane. So Solberg has put the lap on him, and this is the problem for him at the moment, is he's now going to lose how much time based off them back markers. This has absolutely hurt him here. I tell you, the driver that's lost out the most is Westergaard, though. He was battling the likes of Sandberg and Odegaard and Haugum and Alksen. He's now behind all of these drivers, so he's really lost out since the pit stops. Where is Petson? He's ahead of them all. So Petson managed to jump them all in their pit stops here then. But for Solberg, wow. nearly caught up in a little bit of danger. But I tell you what, there's nothing worse than a race leader trying to lap back markers who are all in their own individual fight and have every right to fight, but nearly being caught up in an incident by them back markers. There is nothing worse, nothing more frustrating.
Yeah, no, it really obviously puts a massive dampener on your afternoon if you do get caught up, as he now comes into the pits. The gap's just under that 40-second mark, so it'll be interesting to see where he does come out in all of this. Will he actually change the tyres as well? That's going to be the big question. You were saying it's about, what, a 54-second pit stop, so... Yeah. If that is the case, I would imagine he's going to come out around about 7th position as we look back here with Brennan and Cruz just making their way through Sheen Curve and into Stirling now. I think they've got trying to navigate a back marker here. Yeah, it does seem to be. They get past him now, nice and easy. Those blue flags are waving just to tell him, you know, leaders are coming up behind you. It might be a good idea to step out of the way as they now fire their way down the start-finish straight towards Paddock Hill. Where's Solberg?
Solberg stationary still at the moment. The two leaders go through. They've lost a bit of time due to them back markers in this race. Nordberg goes through into P4. Amundsen goes up into 4th now. So Solberg down to 5th. If he hasn't changed tyres, I reckon he'll come out P6, P7. If he has changed tyres, he'll be about P7, P8. Well, where is Ankins? I think he has just gone through. He's there, yep. So he did go through. Obviously, the thing with ACC is it updates every sector, so you're not quite sure at the time. So Ankins has got ahead of Solberg then, and Solberg is just ahead of Erdegaardsen, sorry. And that, for Solberg, if that is the change of tyres, well, what grip will he have with 22 minutes left on the clock? This could be absolutely mighty and absolutely crucial as he comes through the sector time, does Solberg now. He's not 33 seconds behind. We're just going to wait for that to update. In fact, it already has. He's there. So I'm not sure why it's saying he's 34 seconds behind and Erdegaardsen is 30. I'm sure that'll figure itself out in a few moments' time. But yeah, at the minute, I think Solberg sits in a pretty decent position here. Maybe going to look at the back of a top 5.
Yeah, it looks to be pretty good for him at the moment. He's, like you say, just over 20 minutes to go. And if he did swap over to those new tyres, he's just got to get them warmed up, bring them up to temperature, and then he can go attacking and see how far up the order he can get. But he has got a little bit of a gap to close. It's some 34 seconds I'm seeing here, or it might be a little bit less than that, but it's around about that sort of mark. So he has got his work cut out for him. As we look back here at Odegaard having another battle with Haugham, it seems these two are inseparable through the majority of this race, and they're still going at it through Dingledale now and up to Sheen Curve. Clipping the apex rather nicely is that Ferrari behind. He's gained quite a bit from doing so as well on Odegaard in the... Oh, he's also in the Ferrari as well, just a different colour. As they're now down towards Clearways, Haugham does seem to have a pretty good amount... He has a good amount of momentum to try and make a move. Now over the start-finish straight, will we see anything come of it in towards Paddock Hill Bend, maybe into Druids?
Maybe into Druids. He looks like he's going to set him up. Has a look up the inside at Paddock Hill Bend. Nothing from him at the moment. And down the hill they come now. Did Haugham there just drop away onto the gravel a little bit? Lost a bit of momentum going into Druids. As look at that, Odegaard then just outbreaks himself a little bit. Goes a little deeper than he'd have liked, but Haugham can't take advantage of that. And for Sandberg here, he's able to just pull away inch by inch as these two start to fight. Cruz out from half a second, 6/10 to Brennan. And now that timing screens have worked themselves out, look, Solberg is 4 seconds, 5 seconds behind that of Ankins. So he's pretty close here. He's in a good position. This fight, though, I tell you what, this mid-pack fight today, this and the lead fight, have been absolutely well worth the watch. If you are watching from home, it's been an absolute fantastic race, this has, between these two. It's really been a delight to watch and a joy to bring you the commentary on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being on board here, having a little look at this, because there's nothing better than sitting down, feet up, or maybe not me so much, but, you know, enjoying yourself nice and relaxed and watching a good battle play out before your very eyes. It is always a pleasure to see that unfold. But Brennan here now, he's in the lead. He seems to be gapping Cruz a little bit now at this point of the Grand Prix. 40 minutes gone, and he's just over a second between these two drivers. Norberg doesn't seem to be able to hold on to these two much longer. That gap has opened up to 6 seconds now after all the pit stops seem to have been done and dusted. Amundsen is not too far off Norberg. He's in 4th place, currently 8 seconds off of the lead. As I'm going to have a quick look here at Solberg's last lap time, a 1:24 dead, opposed to Brennan's 1:22.6 from his last lap. So Not quite up to pace yet is Solberg, but he does seem to be closing that gap slowly.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just going to chip away. I think a top 5 could be on the cards for Solberg today. And if so, I tell you what, that's the strategy of the day, because the Bentley hasn't seemed to be anywhere near the top 5. But what a strategy it's been. This man deserves the defensive drive of the day, if you will, because he has been looking in his rear view mirror more than he's been looking going forward. He's had driver after driver appear in it, and he's done so well as Sandberg at the moment to keep ahead of Odegaard and Haugum. It's been fantastic to watch this BMW M4 tackle. He just slides there through Sheen Curve. Tackle this Brands Hatch GP circuit. We go to Zandvoort in a fortnight's time, as well as Odegaard here looking all over the back of Sandberg now down towards Clearway as they come. And just going to patiently wait, possibly set him up through Clearways. Now try and get that run down towards Paddock Hill Bend for turn 1. Maybe set them up for Druids as well. Look at him staying tight, going defensive. That's made Odegaard go to the outside. Now looks back at the inside, but he's just lost a bit of momentum down the straight. Got to be careful here, these two. Bit of a twitch, Sandberg there. Does that open the door for Odegaard to have a look at Druids? No, it does not. Got to be careful with Haugum in the background. One thing you have to say, we're going from this to Zandvoort, another tight, twisty circuit. The BMW as well may favour more that Zandvoort track over the Ferrari 296.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, so I don't think I can really be in a position to comment. So I think I'll leave that to you on how you see that one. But yeah, potentially, I'll say let's just leave it at that. But you know, I think you're quite right in what you've been saying. Sandberg has been looking back more than forward. He's been very much, you know, he's been keeping calm though in all of this. And I tell you what, the pressure that comes being in this sort of position where you're constantly looking over your shoulder, constantly having to put your car maybe not quite where you want it in some unfavourable positions, but the fact that he's still in front, out on top of these guys behind, lining up, trying to get that move done, it is very much commendable. So you know, hats off to him as he is still soaking up that pressure. And now Haugum seems to get a pretty good run through Sterling's. Maybe he can line up a move here on Odegaard in towards Clearways and Clark Curve. He's going to have that inside line though, is Odegaard. Maybe he can get the up and under. No, not quite. He seems to got a pretty good exit, has Odegaard. And Haugum probably going to have to wait for another few corners.
Looking at the gaps to out front, look at Brenham. Started to gap now, Cruz. Over a second is that gap. So has Cruz had the qualifying pace, but Brenham the race pace, because he has managed to pull a decent gap and a bit of daylight between the pair of them. That will be difficult for Cruz to hunt back down, you imagine, in this race. Here is Ankins here, P6 at the moment, right on the back of Fernando. I say right on the back, about 1.1 seconds off the back of Fernando here. But if you just saw there was a glimpse of that refreshing looking Bentley in the background, who is only a couple of seconds off the back of Ankins here. So Solberg, I tell you what, with 15 minutes left to go in this race, or just over 15 minutes, setting himself up for that top 5. And these couple of results here is all points that you can take then into that next round, and points for the championship at the end of it, where they can mean the world to you by taking the win or taking a top 3 in the championship standings at the end of the season. So great position here. Cruz now getting back under a second, but Ashley, just want to talk about Cruz. Got jumped in the pits and hasn't seemed to match Brenham since then.
No, I think he very much was managing the pace out front. That's probably potentially what his strategy was. You know, he does seem to be able to keep with Brenham, which is crucial and key, because then Brenham really does have to stay on it, and any mistake, and Cruz is there to pounce, as I think a mistake from Cruz there might have just cost him a few tenths. But yeah, he's keeping him honest, and that is all that Cruz can do at the moment, because it means then Brenham really, he can't push too hard, or it could all come undone. But looking back towards these two now, this is going to be a battle for P5, I think, between Fernando Solberg and whoa, what's happened there?
I think that's Fernando. Yeah, Fernando's just had a twitch through Sheen Curve, and off he goes. Through goes Solberg. He won't have an easier overtake to make in the day, but just as we was on board there with P6 Ankins, who's now P5, Fernando, just a big twitch, bouncing off the curb through Sheen, and off he goes into the gravel trap. Well held, well recovered to not lose more places than that. I've seen a few cars snap into the inside pit wall. But yeah, Solberg up a place, Ankins up a place, Fernando down 2, and well, Solberg looks the man on a mission, 3 tenths quicker than Ankins last time round, and traffic is now going to play its part. But yeah, Elias Fernando, strange little moment there.
I really thought that was race done for Fernando. Then just watching him dart off from the foreground whilst we were riding on board with Ankans at that moment in time, and I really thought he was done and dusted. But yeah, very well done, managing to keep that out of the barrier and then back onto the circuit and not really losing an awful lot. He's only a couple of seconds now behind Solberg here in that Bentley, as he's now going to be encroaching on that back marker as well. What's going on here? Let's have a little look. We're riding on board now with Odegaard, having another little look at trying to get past the BMW of Sandberg into Druids and down towards Graham Hill Bend. But yeah, a couple of battles going on here in the closing stages of this race. It's hard to know where to look.
Hard to know where to look, and hard to know where to get the camera to be, because there seems to be drama no matter where we look at the moment. But this is the closest fight on the track, Sandberg and Odegaard. At this moment, Haugen's just in the background as well. Let's not forget about him. And remember before the pit stop, as Sandberg just understeers wide there. That's allowed Odegaard back onto the rear of him. If we go back to before the round of pit stops, more and more drivers came into this battle, didn't they? Westergaard is only about 9 or 10 seconds behind this fight. And the more these squabble like that, the sooner Westergaard will be on the back of them. At the moment, though, Haugen now has a great run on Westergaard, who had to avoid the back of the BMW. Down towards the final corner, Clearways, the final corner. There you go, and no changes of position there. All stays as it is, but yeah, Sandberg really being a bit of a blockade here, but defending very, very well. That has to be said. He's making his own little mistakes when he's on his own. When it comes to that defensive drive, he is doing fantastic.
Yeah, he certainly is. I felt for sure Haugen had the run on Odegaard there and maybe would have gone round the outside, taken the long way round, but no, apparently Odegaard had him very much under control, as once again closes that gap right back up to Sandberg. And like you said just a second ago, he does seem to make those little mistakes when he's on his own, but he really does soak up this pressure very well in these situations. Once again now, they'll head towards Hawthorne Bend, and Odegaard very much in the hunt, trying to get past this BMW. It seems like they've been going back and forth like this for about 10 minutes now, although has a little look at the inside, thinks better of it into Westfield, I think, now into Dingledale, and just making sure he can stick close enough to the gearbox of that BMW. Maybe going to try and line something up, not necessarily into Sterling's here, as almost goes around the outside, but he'll try and make something of it down here towards Clearways and the final corner of Clark Curve. Can he pull something off?
No, but I feel, though, that you're going to set him up through this part of the circuit down towards Paddock Hill Bend, and this is where you're going to really try and find that bit of momentum in towards Paddock Hill, maybe even into Druids, and they're going each way, left and right, each way till Sunday, but still Sandberg hanging on in there. This is a fantastic defensive drive at the moment from Sandberg, and he is doing everything he needs to do. What he will be hoping is that Haugen can get on the back of Odegaard and take pressure off him. And look at that, Solberg is up into P5. He's got ahead of Ankens here, and well, the strategy of the day for me, because he's absolutely pulled the blind of either that or Brennan for the race win. He's now got a 2.8 second lead, but Solberg in this race with just over 10 minutes to go, P5, the Bentley driver, has done a fantastic job.
And Ankens just dips a wheel there in the gravel on the exit of Clark Curve, so that's going to hamper him down this start-finish straight and just allow Solberg to cement that position even further. So that'll take a little bit of pressure off of his shoulders in the shortcomings, but he can now keep his eyes firmly fixed forward. It's only about 8 seconds, and I wouldn't say it's an impossible gap, but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see how that all pans out for him. But yeah, I still, like I say earlier, I don't know where to look. There does seem to be action everywhere and which way you turn. And once again, Odegaard, Haugen trying to get past Sandberg. He seems to be, well, the Minister of Defence reincarnated here, because he really is doing his absolute best, tucked up to that inside line. And he's going to pull across. Oh, no, there's contact!
Contact! And that is contact from Odegaard on the back of Sandberg. And how he has held on to that one, I do not know. They both lose out to Haugen. And Odegaard there managed to, let Sandberg get that place back. He did not want to overtake there. And that'll possibly be looked at by race control at the end of the race or during this race. And in a race that's had very few incidents, there was a key one. And yeah, well done on Odegaard to not get past Sandberg, but Sandberg still having to look in his rear. That could have just gave him a couple of tenths worth of damage on that rear splitter. Just want to mention as well to the guys and girls in the chat, let's give a massive nod to our director today, Lee Thompson, who's managed to keep up with all this action. The drama that has been brought to us has been fantastic here at Brands Hatch GP. But Odegaard there tried to open the door and was a little too keen.
Yeah, certainly did. I don't want to point the blame game really, but I think it was a bit of a cheeky move from Sandberg, sort of trying to defend that line. It almost seemed like he was reacting in a way, but we'll leave that, of course, to race controllers. Here goes Odegaard now, trying to take the long way around Sterling's. It's very much a very difficult spot to do so, because being on that inside line, you will have the advantage. And yeah, Sandberg showing that once again, manages to hold on to the position. And we can now see Haugen, he's just stretching his legs with that clean air. And he does seem to be pulling away from these two now, but Odegaard still stuck behind. And yeah, he really is struggling. Oh,
there was a car off. Yeah, there was a car in the gravel trap there. Not sure who that was. I believe it was a black McLaren, it looked like to me. But I think Sandberg here is just a little too eager. I agree with what you said on the defensive drive going into Paddock Hill Bend, and I think there at Sterling's he dropped a wheel on the grass and then just tried to cover and squeeze Odegaard, and wasn't able to. Now, I've not seen any changes through the timing screens at the moment through Sector 1, so maybe that was a back marker who'd lost the car at Paddock Hill Bend. Solberg's about 12 seconds off the back of Almondson then, so I don't think that one is going to happen, but has pulled away from Ankins here and has done a terrific job. But this fight, this is all for 10th, 11th and 12th, and points being prizes at the end of the day, and just showing that round one, 7 minutes left of a race, that everybody is fighting for these places. Odegaard tries to get the run through Dingle-Dell up towards Sheen. They come once again. That is very wide from that of Sandberg. Bounces over the grass, and Odegaard goes through. Sandberg, well, it was kind of coming. The writing was on the wall for him, and he has had to pay the price, going wide himself, just overdriving the car maybe at this later stages of the race.
Yeah, I think his tyres seem a little bit done. He seemed to be sliding into the corners leading up to the point where he went for a trip over the grass, but made it all too easy for Odegaard, who I felt deserved to get that position in the end, albeit not necessarily the way he would have liked. But we're back on board with the leader then, Brennan, who since taking it has not looked back. He's got a gap now of 3 seconds between him and Cruz. Cruz on that last lap though, setting a slightly quicker time than Brennan, so maybe we can still see that close back up, but I don't think that little trip in the gravel there is going to help him. Either way, the gap does seem to be going in the right direction for Cruz, and Brennan's going to maybe come under a little bit of pressure in the last few minutes. Yeah,
we're going to have to keep our eyes on this. 6 minutes left in the race? The gap's 2.5, so yeah, it could ebb and flow either way. Here is Nordberg in P3, who just, since the pit stop, just has fell off the back of the front two, hasn't he? He seemed to be making his own mistakes in that first part of the race. He'd cane on them, then make a mistake or two and drop back. And we've just not seen Nordberg at his best, I don't think. I think he's got more to show. I think he's just going to be probably a bit disappointed with himself on the little mistakes he's made in this one.
Yeah, I think that's what's cost him crucially overall. It's not even by much. It really is just sort of a little thing here and there. But over the course of an hour, they obviously add up, and they've added up to about 10 seconds worth back from Brennan. So, like you say, I think Nordberg has a lot more to give, and it could also be down to the circuit. You know, a lot of drivers do have circuit preferences. This is, of course, one of 5. We may see something completely different when we head to Zandvoort next time. So. Yeah. It could all change once again when we get to the second round. But you know, for the first race of the season, and like you said earlier, you know, points do mean prizes when you get to the end of it. A strong start really does give you a confidence boost going forward.
Yes, and that's going to be the biggest thing to see, isn't it, going into Zandvoort and also going into the future races this season. Pettersson currently P9. He's had a good race, been a bit quiet since the pit stops. He did all his hard work early on, and really I think 9th place suits Pettersson. But this fight, top 10, it is Haugen and Odegaard. Odegaard seemed to have the pace over Haugen before getting onto the back of Sandberg, and it was really Sandberg who was the cork in the road that brought Haugham onto the back of Odegaard. And Odegaard's looked racy in these last 10 minutes. And, well, there's 4 minutes left on the clock. It's going to be even racier to see what these two can do towards the end of it at this stage of the day. And what a day it's been. What a season opener. You probably couldn't ask for any more. Battles, dramas, a few little bits of incidents here and there. What an opening day to a championship. You couldn't ask for much more than this. As now Odegaard going to that outside line, pretty much getting that front bumper to rear bumper as they come to Paddock Hill Bend. Earlier on the brakes, you just see him drop back a little bit. Tries to get that switch back. Down the hill they drop. And has he just worked in an absolute treat? Up the inside at Druids? No. But goes wide does Haugham. Now Odegaard tries to come back up the inside a little bit here. Lets him have that inside line going into Graham Hill Bend. And I tell you what, this is fantastic from the two Ferraris.
Yeah, just going back to it, it's had everything this race, hasn't it? Pit strategy, battling on and off the circuit, really. So no, you couldn't have asked for a better season opener. I will say, out of Druids there, I think Haugham was destined really to hold the position. He had the momentum on the exit as Odegaard took that tighter line. He would have scrubbed off a lot more speed, but he is looking incredibly racy. Once both of these guys got past Sandberg, they really have just gone on and off. But yeah, Odegaard, I'm really surprised he hasn't been able to get the move done as of yet. Still following Haugham, and he's doing a brilliant job at defending. I wonder if he can keep it up like this for the 2.5 minutes that we have remaining.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be fascinating to see what will happen between Odegaard and Haugham here. I feel like Odegaard's got the pace. I think that Sandberg is what brought Haugham onto the back of him, and you can just see the difference here as they come through 25-2, 25-3, and that's probably how Odegaard just being a little more cautious. You saw the flickering of the brake lights. Now towards Druids, Haugham covers that inside line. Brakes later does Odegaard in towards Druids corner. There you go. The leader's just started another lap, and this is going to provide, some very good racing on the 58th minute. 58 minutes done. 2 minutes left to go. I think the leader's got about 2 laps left in this.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I completely agree with that one. The gap's still hovering around that 3-second mark, so unless Cruz is able to pull off a miracle, I think that battle could be done. Unless Brennan, of course, potentially makes a mistake with the pressure of it all. But the one who is very much under the cosh and very much soaking it up at the second is Haugham here in the Ferrari. Of course, these two drivers in the same car, so it's equal machinery underneath their feet and their seats. And so it is all about trying to position as best you can to get a move on your competitor. As Haugham has just opened up a tiny gap here once Odegaard's made that little mistake, as I think this could be rounding out for the final lap now, if I'm correct, or maybe got one more.
Brennan's going to cross the line to get one more on the board here, and Brennan, well, 5.1 seconds in the lead of this race. Cruz has dropped off a cliff here at the very end, just hasn't had the consistency, hasn't had the end of race pace that Brennan has had, and this has been fantastic viewing to watch. And Brennan starts the final lap, but Odegaard still trying to eke out every opportunity. He's probably got 2 laps left as Odegaard to get this job done for him in this race. Brennan, though, at the moment, really pushing on the back of Odegaard pushing on the back of Haugham. I was reading the wrong names on the list here. But through Surtees they go. Nothing can come of this. And actually, this has been absolutely fantastic. Just noting now in P16, Elshaug here. I don't know if I've probably butchered that. Is back in the pit lane. That was the McLaren that we saw off earlier.
Yeah, he is. I don't think you pronounced that wrong. I would have gone with the same, to be honest. So, no, quite right. He is in the pit lane. I don't quite know what is going on there either. But we are looking back on board here with the race leader. He's only got a few corners to go. He'll be counting them down in his mind. I will come back to Norberg and Cruz, though. The gap is about 5 to 6 seconds, there or thereabouts, hovering. Cruz is dropping off, but Norberg hasn't. So that could be interesting to see how that pans out when we go to Zandvoort next week. But 1 corner left to go for Brennan, and he's done it.
He will have done it. What a fantastic race. Missed out just narrowly in qualifying But for Brenham here, it's been the race and the strategy of a lifetime for him. He comes home to take the checkered flag at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. What a race for him. Cruz just didn't have enough in the locker at the end of the race. He takes P2. Fantastic job nonetheless from him. That is Westergaard for 13th. Norberg will finish out the podium in P3. That is Armandson in P4. Great drive from him. I believe Alksland hit there in P14. Solberg, though, that is a great drive for the Bentley driver. P5, what a strategy he has just had there. Fernando will come home for P6. He managed to get ahead of Ankins here after a mistake, so Ankins really dropped off towards the end of this race. He's coming under pressure from Erdegaardsen at the end. One more lap, and that would have been interesting to see how that developed, but Ankins here, P7. Erdegaardsen will take P8. He seems pretty happy with that one, with a big weave and a wiggle across the line. Pettersson, who I thought a moment there looked pretty slow. It turns out it was just the camera angle as he panned away. He's coming towards the line. There is Alksland, who finished P14. But Pettersson P9, and then that epic battle in P10, which is no longer an epic battle because Odegaard has got ahead by some margin and he's going to take home that top 10 position. What a race we've had, Ashley.
Yeah, we certainly have. It's quite surprising to see that happen. It's such a shame for Haugen because he only had a few corners to try and fend him off, but I think it was almost inevitable that was how it ended up. Odegaard finishing, rounding out the top 10, I should say, so fair play to him there. Probably deserved it as well at the end of the day. But yeah, the two strategies that stood out for me, of course, you've said it many times already, Brenham and Solberg, and I think you can look at both of them. They're obviously very different in contrast to what happened. But Brenham's, well, you know, he had to soak up the pressure from the position he was in. He, you know, needs a lot of confidence in himself to be able to pull out that one lap to get the move done, and he did. So, I mean, personally for me, that was the strategy of the day.
Was the strategy of the day, and I tell you what, he absolutely delivered on it. Like you say, that one lap was just enough to do it.
Yeah, it certainly was. Solberg, of course, close second, definitely. And we can see there the top four, all of them are BMWs before you get to Solberg's Bentley in fifth. You get a little gaggle of McLarens, 6th, 7th and 8th. And then Pettersson also in the Bentley for 9th. And then you do get to Odegaard, Haugen, 10th, 11th in those Ferraris. And then you get a little bit of a mix further down the order. But, you know, the BMW showing its strength there. Sandberg's the one that's a little bit out of place, but I wonder if that's going to be the same heading to Zandvoort.
It's going to be interesting going to Zandvoort. Brenham also the fastest lap of the race in that one as well. But like I say, BMW 124 from the Bentley. Trio of McLarens, another Bentley, 2 Ferraris. The Ferraris not having a great day. That's going to be interesting to see their comeback at the end of this one as well. What a day of racing at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and we are hopefully going to see if Pete Drivers turn up for an interview. That's going to be the wait that we have for just a few moments, but let's talk going into Zandvoort. We've obviously just had the Formula 1 there at the weekend. GT's obviously a different kettle of fish, and it's the older layout of Zandvoort that we have. I think we're in for an absolute belting race, especially on the grid we have here today.
Yeah, I think we should do as well. And when you say the older layout, is that without the banked curves? Is that what we're referring to?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought you were referring to. So no, that should enable some brilliant racing as well. I've driven it a couple of times myself, sort of in the sim, and it really, I personally feel it does actually allow you to overtake, particularly in sort of tin top cars, a little bit better. Of course, with the high downforce formula cars, single seaters, those banked curves help them. But I think when it comes to tin top racing, such as the GT3s we have here, I think the flatter road surface is actually better for those cars because it enables those different lines to be used. And of course, you know, a little bit of rubbing is racing is always welcome as well. And you can see that a little bit more when they're not quite banked.
And I think as well, we're going to be in for a fantastic race. It's going to be interesting to see as well. Keep our eyes on the weather, which I think is going to be another important thing, because a bit of weather around Zandvoort could make things really interesting.
Yeah, it absolutely could do it. You know, it's right on the coast, so rain doesn't tend to be too far away from the circuit pretty much on any day of the week. So if it does rain, it will shake things up once again, and we can really see the talent and skill of these drivers, because it's a whole different kettle of fish when you have to put a wet tyre over a slick and try and navigate your way around a circuit when water is hammering it down and the racing lines are not quite what they normally are in the dry.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see what we can get through this race at Zandvoort in 2 weeks' time, let's not forget. So in a fortnight's time, that's going to be the next race that we will see out there on the series. And I believe it's another fortnight from that one. And then don't forget that all the 8th and 15th of October, they'll be the two that are back-to-back. So we will see you in a fortnight's time, because there is nobody coming for an interview, which is a bit of a shame that we can't get to speak with one of the drivers. But hopefully we will get to hear maybe from one or two of them in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, I just got to double-check with Lee that we are wrapping up the end of this broadcast. We are. I don't have anything else to say. Ashley, anything from yourself? We're looking forward to Zandvoort and looking forward to be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for it. And maybe I'll poke a few of the drivers out there and see if next week, or not next week, sorry, in a fortnight's time, we can try and have a little chat with a few of them after the race, because that would be nice to see their insight and thoughts on how they thought the race went and what their sort of ultimate strategies were at the start and how it panned out throughout, and of course where they finished. So I might see if we can get some in next time.
Indeed, it should be brilliant. Brennan was the all-race winner today, though. We'll see you in 2 weeks for Zandvoort. Goodbye.